Hello all you beautiful constellations. Today I wanted to do something kind of different and kind of Valentine's Day-y, because candles? I don't know. Can you tell I've never really celebrated Valentine's Day? Yeah, I just wanted to match some of my candles to my book. Just, I don't know, like matching up vibes or colors or something about some of these candles reminded me of some books. So it might be hard to explain some of my choices. If there's a choice you disagree with, tell me what you would have matched it with instead. I think this is just a fun, like, random throwing together things. Let's get started. The first candle that I will be showing is my pecan caramel candle. As the name suggests, it smells like pecan caramel, like bread or pie. It has a little like cinnamon bun, and that's what it smells like. My mom hates this candle. I think it smells wonderful, and because it reminds me of like fall, not quite Halloweeny, but just fall, I for some reason wanted to match it with Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children because it's kind of a cozy read for me. It's, I don't know, it's like not quite spooky, but it's very autumny. If you've never read Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, it follows this boy named Jacob who discovers that he and his family, oh my gosh, it's been a while since I read this book, but it basically follows this boy named Jacob who discovers that he and his grandfather, I believe, have this like power, or they have something that makes them peculiar. And Jacob discovers this island, this place on this island called Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, where basically a bunch of these kids who have like powers live, kind of secluded from the rest of humanity. And yeah, he stumbles across, not stumbles, but he's led to this area, and he has powers of his own, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, it has all of these like wacky pictures in it that are supposed to be like kind of strange and peculiar, and for that reason I associate it with like autumn, just that like general spooky season vibes, because it's just kind of strange and cool, but it's also really cozy, and at the end of the day it's more about family than it is about the powers that they have. Yeah, I really like it. This is Jesse the Reader's favorite series, and he can explain it a million times better than I can. So definitely check out his channel and his ravings about this series. Next, I have this candle that's in this little cauldron shape, and it says it's called Spellbound Sangria. I'm gonna be really bad at explaining scents because I don't know how to explain scents, so I'm really sorry, and until technology finds a way to make you smell what I'm smelling, you might not know what I'm talking about. But it smells kind of sweet, and I guess it smells like sangria. It smells like fruit punch. Almost. That's a really bad explanation. I'm so sorry. You're gonna have to deal with a lot more of these. But I matched this one more on the shape of the cauldron and the fact that it smells very sweet to my Over the Garden Wall comic. And I have actually, last year for Halloween, when I lit this candle, I was watching Over the Garden Wall because it's so sweet and cozy, and it's another Halloween vibes show. So if you've never seen Over the Garden Wall, it follows these two brothers, Wirt and Greg, who find themselves trapped in this land called the Unknown, where there's a lot of like weird, spooky things happening, and they are just trying to get home. And it's a very sweet show. Because of that, I matched it to this because it's not quite scary. It has some like spooky moments in it, but it's not supposed to be a scary show. It's just supposed to be like a funny family show, cute cartoon. It's definitely something that I find very comforting, and I rewatch it every year around Halloween. And if you haven't seen it, you really should. It's so good and really underrated, and yeah, it just makes me smile, and the music in it is so sweet and wonderful, and Greg is the cutest little bean in the entire world, and I love him so much. Next, I have this white chocolate candle that smells like if you took white chocolate and you amplified the scent by like 3 times. It's really strong and really sweet and kind of a bit too much for me, but my mom actually likes this one. So I wanted to pick a romancy type book for this one because it's supposed to be a Valentine's Day candle, and it's chocolate scented and very sweet. I don't read a lot of romance though, so the book that I picked was Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe, which has romance in it. I guess, yeah, it's a romance book, one of the few that I own. It is about, and this one I also haven't read in a while, so I apologize if I'm inaccurately describing this book. But it is about these 2 boys, Aristotle and Dante, who meet and they develop a really sweet relationship because I think it's Ari who has kind of closed himself off from the world, and he has, you know, built these walls around himself, and Dante is really outgoing and very optimistic, and he immediately worms his way into Aristotle's heart, and it's really cute, really sweet. I definitely want to reread it, maybe for Valentine's Day actually. If you haven't read it, I recommend it. Evidently, a bunch of other people recommend it as well. Yeah, give it a try. I again just realized that I haven't been saying the authors of these. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children is by Ransom Riggs. The Over the Garden Wall comics, I'm unsure about. I'm sure they switch off authors for every issue though. I could be wrong. Maybe I'll put the name on the screen. And Aristotle and Dante is by Benjamin Alires Sainz. The next candle is the only non-sweet smelling candle that I own. It's gray elm and moss, and it really, really smells like moss. Like when I light this, it smells like I'm in the forest. And for that reason, I picked Willa of the Wood by Robert Beatty. And I actually haven't read this. It is one of the many books that I own that I haven't read, unfortunately. It is about this young fae girl named Willa who has grown up believing that all humans are bad and they attack what they don't understand, and for that reason her and her people must remain secluded. And one day she gets injured and discovers that not all humans are bad, and I think she might befriend one of them. I'm not quite sure, but she basically has to use this knowledge to save her people. They are under some kind of magical attack or something about the foundations of their history and people is in danger. And it's up to her to save everyone. I've heard some good things about this. I'm really excited to read it. I think it would be really cute. And yeah. Next I have this giant candle that I don't think has a name. It's just the brand. But when I first smelled it, I thought it smelled like rose petals. And then when I lit it, it didn't smell like anything. So I use it more for ambiance, for when I want to light a candle but I don't want to smell anything. But the idea that I went in with expectations and was a bit disappointed made me match it with Cinderella is Dead by Kaylin Byron. For those of you who don't know what it's about, it is a story about this girl named Sophia who lives in this city that exists 200 years after the Cinderella story. And because of Cinderella, they have this ball that all young women must attend in order to get picked by a husband. And they get 3 chances, and by their 3rd chance, if they aren't picked by a man, they disappear. It's an interesting idea and had a lot of potential for deep conversations around feminism and the objectification of women in our society. The main character, Sophia, is also gay, and she's expected to, marry a guy, and she doesn't want to do that. So it had a lot of potential for a lot of conversations around very real things that people in our society struggle through, but it didn't do that. It kind of simplified way too much, and it was like this very textbook idea of what feminism is. There wasn't a lot of thought put behind it, really. I think it was just it felt like the author kind of scrolled through social media for a quick moment and got some tweets or those Instagram threads and took some quotes and kind of threw them together in this book. And it felt like a very introductory surface level of a lot of social activism when it could have been a lot more. And I think that's just because it tried to tackle too many issues and just didn't have a lot of time to really delve into it. Maybe if this was a series instead of a standalone, it might have been done better. But it just fell a little flat for me, which was kind of disappointing.
Hello, crusty editor me from the future, also popping in to say that there were a couple things about this book that I found a little problematic, and I'm trying to remember specific examples, but I did remember thinking that it was very evident that the author had some internalized societal ideas, how sometimes women will find themselves saying or doing something that is not what they think, but is just what society has told them, and they perpetuate these ideas themselves, and none of us really want this for other women, but we kind of encourage toxic ideas, and that's kind of what it felt like some moments in the book were doing. It didn't feel intentional at all, but I just remember thinking that some segments of the book were a little problematic, or some things that Sophia would do were a little questionable, and not in a good 3-dimensional character way, and more as this is the lesson you're supposed to be learning, except it's not a great message. And also spoilers for the end of the book, but I didn't like the people's rewrite of Cinderella because it did feel like propaganda in support of Constance and her group. I recognize that it's called the People's Rewrite, so I'm sure that the people actually wrote it, but it did feel like Sophia and or Constance had rewritten this story in order to glorify their heroic actions and to justify them sort of kicking out and punishing those who they viewed as enemies, which is kind of a dangerous idea and only causes a cycle, because at some point they might start, viewing people as enemies that the people don't view as enemies, and as much as they're like, oh, we encourage the people to say something about it, it just felt like they only really wrote that because for the time being the people's will aligned with their own. So it just kind of felt a little dodgy at the end there, which I wasn't a fan of. But if you're interested in reading it, I do think it's interesting to read. I just had a lot of high hopes for it, and I think that these issues could have been fixed, which is why I'm a little upset about them.
The next candle is this coral coconut candle that smells like flowers with just a dash of coconut. And for some reason, I think of this as a summer sweet candle that you just light when you want to feel easy and breezy. Easy, breezy, beautiful cover girl. Yeah, so I think of this as a fun summer candle, and I'm matching this with a book that I haven't read yet, which is Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. It is also one of the only romance books that I own. It's about these two 16-year-olds, Eleanor and Park, who kind of know that their relationship isn't going to last forever. They know that, first relationships are just that they're your first, they're not your last. But they like each other enough to try it out. And it is about their story and how their relationship develops. And I'm really excited to read this. Maybe I'll have like a Valentine's Day reading vlog where I read like the few romance books that I have. But I've heard some nice things about this. My middle school English teacher had this book as one of our like guided reading options, but my group never got to read this, so I was a little sad. But maybe I'll read it soon and I'll email her and I'll share my thoughts and we'll have a conversation, so that would be nice. The next candle that I have is this wild berry frosé, which smells like if you took a bunch of berries and a bunch of flowers and you mixed them together in a love potion. Yeah, it smells very sweet. I also consider this a summer candle for some reason. Maybe a spring candle because of how floral it smells. And for this, I couldn't decide between two books, so I guess I'll just talk about both of them. The first is Secrets for the Mad by Dodie, which is her little autobiographical book about her life and how she got started on YouTube with her songs. And yeah, I read this a long time ago. I really like Dodie and I love her music, and her struggles with mental health have always been really interesting to me. She talks a little bit about that in her book as well, and it just makes me really happy. Her music makes me really happy, and it's her music that I associate with a candle, just because she has like a lot of romancy songs. She has songs about hope. Like her song Secrets for the Mad is just about hope when you feel like there is nothing and you're just struggling with your mind and your circumstances. And yeah, when I read it, it was very comforting to me. I'd love to reread it and see how I feel now that I have been reading more analytically, not just like passively. It would be fun to jump back into this. The other book that I associate with that candle is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Oop. Just because of the romance. If you haven't read Pride and Prejudice, you might not ever. Like, the only people that I know who haven't read Pride and Prejudice just know that this kind of book is not up their alley. But, if you haven't and you think maybe you'd like to, it's about Elizabeth Bennet, who is one of like 5 sisters. Oh gosh, Sophie's gonna come at me if I say anything wrong about this. I'm so sorry if I say anything inaccurately. Look down in the comments because I'm pretty sure my friend Sophie is going to correct everything that comes out of my mouth. So it's about Elizabeth Bennet, who has decided that she's not going to get married, which is insane because that is her job as a young woman in society. That is how she is going to be successful and supported financially, but she's just not really interested until she meets Mr. Darcy, whom at first she despises, and who despises her. So it is your classic rivals, it's not quite enemies, but rivals to lovers. It's very wonderful. It's probably one of my favorites. Yeah, it makes me really happy. So if you haven't read it and you think you'd like to, please read it and let me know what you think. I love talking about this book. There are also several really good movies out there. So maybe if you don't even want to read the book just because classics can be hard to read sometimes, watch the movies, please. They're so good. The next candle that I have is actually just a bunch of tealight candles that my mom gave me. They're all like floral, sweet scented. Can you tell I have a specific type of candle that I like? I put them in these things and it's really fun. They are they're very cozy and have a nice ambiance and also just a very nice smell. But the book that I'm matching to these candles, Orlando by Virginia Woolf, which I talked about in my last video, but now I've finished it. And I think it fits because Orlando has lived through many time periods. So it just makes sense to have like multiple candles. But throughout it all, it is Orlando's journey to understanding her femininity and what that means for the time that she's living through, the times that she's living through, and who she is as a person. So, not that floral scented camels, not that floral scented candles are a strictly feminine thing, but because flowers and sweet things are typically associated with feminine qualities, and because this book is about what femininity means and also has flowers on the cover, I thought that it would be a nice fit. The last candle that I have to show you is this spiced apple coconut candle, which is one of my other fall candles. I really don't know how to explain what this smells like. It smells kind of coconutty, but kind of cinnamony as well, and it's very soft, like it's not as rich. And I can't explain why I associate it with this book, but I matched it to Nevermore. The first book in the Nevermore series, The Trials of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend, because there's something about this candle that I associate with light whimsy, and that is definitely this book. If you don't know what it is about this girl named Morgan Crow who is cursed to die on her 11th birthday. And on the day of her 11th birthday, instead of dying, she gets whisked away by this man called Jupiter North, who gives her an opportunity to participate in these trials where she can compete for a place in the Nevermore Society. It's this magical secret society. And it's really wonderful. It's magical and adventurous and kind of reminds me of like Doctor Who, if instead of it being sci-fi, it was some kind of fantasy. I read up to like page 200 and just had to stop because life got really busy. So I definitely want to pick this up again and just read through the whole series. It made me really happy, and it's so cute and warm and hopeful. If it interests you, please read it. Let me know. Maybe I can do a buddy read with someone. That would be fun. But yeah, those are all of my candles. That's not true. Last but not least, I forgot some candles that I have to show you. So this is going to be the big finale. For Christmas, my mom gave me these 3 little cute candles. I really don't know what they're supposed to smell like. They smell like a summer breeze. And they each have this like saying on them. This one says, inhale, exhale. This one says, free your soul. And this one says, let the light in. So to me, these feel very inspirational and they smell like new beginnings. And for that reason, I picked the Agent of Asgard comics by Al Ewing. If I'm mispronouncing his name, I'm so sorry. He is probably my new role model and I'm butchering his name and I'm so sorry. I recently read these comics for a research project that I'm doing for my school about Loki's evolution in comic books and how that reflects society's need to veer away from good versus evil narratives and these like hero versus villain stories where good must always prevail, and more towards having morally ambiguous characters and anti-heroes that more accurately represent who we are as people. And when I read Agent of Asgard and I finished it, I actually cried. Loki's journey, and so many people have talked about this in much more eloquent ways, but Loki's journey was really impactful to me, and kind of watching them make friends and fight for their place in the world and, you know, not have people kind of put them in a box of you will always be this villain and you will always be undeserving of love and you will always be this and always be that, and watching Loki learn to go, no, I am going to be myself and I'm going to fight for who I am. And that was so meaningful to me, and it was so cool to just watch Loki grow and learn and understand forgiveness and love and family, and it was just so sweet. And I highly, 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 highly recommend reading the Agent of Asgard comics, especially if you're a fan of Loki. It was just so touching and wonderful to me. And yeah, those are all of my candles that I have to show you. If you enjoyed this video, let me know. If you have other ideas for things that I could do or show you, let me know, comment down below. If you want to do a video like this, please share it with me. I think these are so fun. I hope you're all doing well and staying safe. It has not been the easiest start to the year for me, and I know a lot of people feel the same way, but you know, keep moving forward. There's a lot to look forward to just in life in general, and I hope you all are doing well and that you find something that comforts you and makes you excited and makes you happy. Dream big, stay kind, stay safe, and I will see you in the next video, whenever that is. Bye bye!